The 2026 Ferrari Challenge UK season, characterised by the dramatic elevation changes as well as some of the fast-flowing corners and blind crests. The iconic Kent circuit rewards precision driving and is well tailored to the Ferrari 296 Challenge cars that we have here this weekend. In Trofeo Pirelli, Charles Hurst driver Gilbert Yates leads the standings on 115 points. Bradley Yates is close behind on 107. While Joseph Dean sits in third on 79. In Copa-Shell, however, Christopher Baton arrives at Brands Hatch, leading the championship with a commanding 110 points. Behind him sits Sean Rann on 76 points, while William Bolster completes the top three on 67. We kicked off the season at Paul Ricard Le Castellet, right back on the 13th and 15th of March, before we returned to home soil for the first round inside the UK. Snetterton on the 2nd and 3rd of May. 2 weeks later, we went to Silverstone before we were at Alton Park for round 4. Here at Brands Hatch for round number 5, and we head to Donington Park in September for round number 6. The centenary year here at Brands Hatch, 100 years of racing. The track temp up into the 30 degrees, dangerously close to the 40s. 38 degrees track temp, 27 degrees air temp. Humidity has dropped, but the wind has picked up from qualifying this morning. Myself, Jack Werrell, guiding you through some of the action, my share of the action, both today and tomorrow. I'll be joined in the commentary box by Jack Mace. We'll have a chat with Jack very shortly. But here at Brands Hatch, the Indy circuit today, the GP circuit tomorrow. 1.944 kilometres or 1.208 miles. 5 corners, that being 3 to the right and 2 to the left. And you can see over 20 metres of elevation change from the lowest to the highest point on the circuit. Qualifying posed unique challenges, both by way of track space, but also trying to string the lap together. Down there on the grid in a few moments' time, naturally once all the cars have got there, it's my fabled colleague, Dave Richardson.
Jack and Jack, thank you so much. We're at the moment being very cautious. Piero is my cameraman and myself. And also a big shout out to my producer as well, who is here. We're on the grass at the moment because we have merely one car on the grid. And that car is the car that belongs to John Turner. The number 88 car was made it onto John's grid position, expecting the other cars to arrive very, very soon. But of course, until all those cars are on the grid, we are not permitted, quite rightly, to go on the grid because a 296 challenge and me coming together would not make the 296 as beautiful a car as it is. In fact, it would severely hamper its beauty. So William Bolster is another driver that's just made it out onto the grid. Of course, as you have said, Jack, we reached the sharp end of the championship, if you will, because after this, there's only one more round to do when we head to Donington Park. Before all our thoughts are towards the 2027 calendar, which incidentally will be revealed at a gala dinner, which I've got the pleasure of hosting this evening. So we'll find out where we're going in 2027. Mike Dewhurst, we know where he's going, and that's to his position on the grid. I was chatting to Mike's wife over lunch and didn't realise just what a fitness fanatic Mike Dewhurst is, and something of an endurance star, not in terms of racing, but in terms of fitness. Some of the things that he does, absolutely extraordinary. So fair play to Mike Dewhurst. So still 4 or 5 cars to make it onto the grid before we can join the festivities, if you will, down there on the grid. And Tony Dean back racing in the number 27 car. He's just gone past Ian Morris. I was mentioning in the qualifying show that Ian Morris was one of the UK drivers that also took part in the support races at the Le Mans 24-hour. Ferrari Challenge was there with 2 support races this year. And Ian Morris doing a very, very good job, almost making it to the podium in one of those support races for the Le Mans 24-hour race. So a good job done by him, that's for sure. So we're just about there, Piero, I think. Maybe waiting for a couple of drivers. I'm not sure whether the Yates are, or certainly whether Gilbert is there yet. So here we go. Can see Gilbert Yates making his way down here now, and presumably Bradley behind him. No, it's Joseph Dean, to be fair. So Gilbert Yates and Joseph Dean, and I think that gives us our entire grid, which allows us the opportunity to start talking about some of the drivers that we have here and some of their cars, because I think the grid is set. Here we go then, standing by for the first race of the weekend. Rob here talking to his driver. That is John Turner. John Turner taking on some fluid. He's a little guy. No, he's not. He's a normal sized guy. It's John, and a great driver. And let's see how he does. We had a wonderful time last night, a little bit of a social. John, a number of other drivers and driver coaches as well. We had a fantastic soiree yesterday evening, so I want to thank you for that. Thank you for your invitation. Yes? Hang on just a mo. We've got to hear this. And this is probably going to poke fun at me.
No. I was just saying, just remember the Indy circuit. It's quite a small, midget sort of circuit, but you've got to hustle it round and almost wrestle the corners.
You've thought a long time about that, John, and I offer my congratulations to you because you've done a good job. Rob, me and you used to be friends. Now, not so sure. He's driver coach there, Rob West. So, as I say, Tony Dean, it's a warm welcome back to Tony Dean, and driving the number 27 car. Good to see him back again. He wasn't at the last round of the Ferrari Challenge UK, but he's at this round, and very much looking forward to it, and done a good job in qualifying. Well done, Tony Dean, as we make our way down the grid. Here we can see the car of Darren Howell. You can't miss the car of Darren Howell. Beautiful colour scheme. The less beautiful Sean Doyle stands alongside the car. Sean is his driver coach. Go well, Darren. Looking forward to a great race with you, and see you at the end of the race. Now, I was mentioning just how well Ian had done at Le Mans. There is Ian Morris with the number 22 car. Let's see how he does today. Now, just so that you're aware of the fact that in the Ferrari Challenge UK, we have two categories of driver. If you drive with a yellow strip across the top of the windscreen, that means you are a Copa Shell driver. If you drive with a red strip across the top of the windscreen, it means you are a Pirelli driver. And we'll show you one of those right now just to prove the point here, because Mike Dewhurst, a former Copa Shell champion, is indeed a Trofeo Pirelli driver, and Mike is missing. One assumes a comfort brake. Ed Bridle, driver coach to the stars. Ed, where is he?
It's just tradition.
It's tradition,
yeah, it's
okay.
tradition, I'll say that. I'll just say that.
Mike, Copa Shell champion last year, elevated up to Trofeo Pirelli this year. To be fair, it's taken a while for him to get back into the groove again. I was really impressed with him at Alton Park. What can he do here this weekend?
Yeah, we should have, really impressed at Alton Park. We did really well in free practice one there this morning. We were third and a few temps to find. We had a bit of an issue in qualifying, unfortunately, so we didn't really get our laps in. So we think that's solved now.
Okay.
And then it's just eyes forward. So we think we should be on the podium today, but obviously we've got a bit of work to do at the start of this race.
Well, you're a great combo, you and him, and I'm sure you can do that. Also looking good is alongside us here, the driver of the number 6 car. I have to say, one of the most colourful, Andrea Seminara's car is one of the most colourful 296 Challenge cars. Beautiful livery across the car of Andrea Seminara. The grid, as always, is littered, and not only littered with racing people, but celebrities as well, from a county next door to mine. Tobias Bell is here. Dare I say, hairstylist to the stars, Tobias?
I'll let you say that. And flattery will get you everywhere, Dave.
What did you do with mine, friend?
I don't know. The convertible.
Talking of cars, convertibles and things.
Yeah.
At the moment, you're driving a fantastic Ferrari.
A beast. The 12-cylindry.
Dodici
Stunning.
Cylindri.
Yeah.
There you go.
There
You're
you go.
impressed with that,
I'm
aren't
impressed.
you?
I'm impressed with that. I'm impressed.
So what a car that is, and I think you've got the special version of that. You've got the Spider.
Yep, it's amazing. I haven't actually owned a convertible in a long time, but it's converted me again. I absolutely love convertibles. The wind in my hair, and you know, we know all about it, don't we?
No, I don't. It's irritating when you have as much hair as you do. Listen, I know you're not gonna grass anyone up here, but you are. You style a lot of celebs and stuff, so you get to meet people who are very much into their cars as well. I mean, what a talking point you're going to have now, having driven that Dodici Cylindri.
Absolutely. I think I could become a salesman. Depends. It depends if I'm on commission or not.
Okay, we'll sort a deal.
Yeah, we'll sort a deal. The cars are absolutely amazing. The 296 in the race edition, which I've never seen before.
Have you not?
No, first time. And actually, that's a lie. I sat in one at Goodwood last year. And
okay.
But these liveries are amazing. The colours are so cool. I'd love to know where they get them, and just who decides. And yeah,
a lot of it is the drivers' inspiration themselves.
I haven't spoke to any drivers yet. I want to find out who's who.
Oh, honestly,
yeah.
Some of them, they come up with the design plans themselves.
Amazing.
Listen, great to see you on the grid.
Great to see you too. Thanks. Cheers.
Thanks
Enjoy.
to Tobias Bell then, as I say, from Essex, and he is a stylist to the stars as we continue our walk down the grid of cars here. Now, it is just possible for the man to my right-hand side here, Chris Bayton. It's possible, I think, mathematically, for him to almost seal the Copa Shell Championship today. I think the two Jacks will have done the crunch the numbers far better than me. Will Bolster alongside here in the all-red car. Phil Hansen is here. Top Ferrari hypercar driver, driving, of course, the AF Corsa car and race winner in Le Mans 24 hours as well. Phil, welcome to the grid here, UK Challenge. It's always a colourful place to be, and thrilled that you're here.
Yeah, with weather like this, it couldn't be a more perfect weekend for it.
Now, you're unique in terms of motor racing. I mean, clearly an extraordinarily talented driver. But you entered your racing career not the normal route. You didn't go into single-seaters. You started in endurance straight away. Talk about start at the big stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I went straight into endurance racing at a young age. There's still follow the ladder like most people do, just the endurance ladder. So A very, very small time in LMP3, then a long period of LMP2, and then into hypercar, a few seasons there, and a very successful season, obviously, last year.
Of course, it was brilliant. Absolutely phenomenal to watch. You have Ife and Robert Kubica as your teammates. I mean, and that car, particularly in the colours that you choose, that yellow, I know you didn't choose it personally, Phil, but I just cannot imagine what it's like to drive one of those hypercars.
Yeah, it's super special. And you know, the car's a completely proven concept, having won Le Mans 3 years in a row.
Yes.
Unbelievable. But the team know exactly what they're doing, and Ferrari obviously know how to produce the goods. So yeah, just happy to be here watching some the other end of motorsport race, and it's also enjoyable.
Phil, you know how to pedal the car as well. Great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Phil Hansen there, 24-hour Le Mans winner in the Ferrari hypercar, driving that car that, as I mentioned, driven not only by Phil, but also Ife and Robert Kubica as well. We have young Joseph Dean there to my left-hand side. It was a brilliant qualifying, incidentally, from Sean Ran, who did a great job in qualifying. Have a brilliant race, Sean.
Yes, I'm thinking how I should start the race behind the leader.
You'll be fine. Sean Ran then, a brilliant job in qualifying as we reach the front row of the grid before we will be ushered off this grid, and quite rightly so. As has so often been the case this year, it's an all Yates front row, and as is so often the case this year, it's Gilbert Yates going from P1. Bradley Yates to my left is going from P2, but Bradley really chased Gilbert all the way. Let's see what they can do in the race. So as I mentioned then, an all Yates front row. It's a compelling grid. Some brilliant racing to come from Ferrari Challenge UK, and we have two Jacks to bring you all the action.
Thank you very much, Dave. Yeah, great to hear from the drivers down there on the grid, and great to hear from a number of guests as well. The grid looks absolutely resplendent in the sunlight here at Brands Hatch. So the grid will begin to clear, and then we can get race one of the weekend underway, the only race of the weekend that will be on the Indy circuit. Remember, tomorrow we go onto the Grand Prix circuit, extending that track length with a lot more elevation change, and as Jack said, the trees almost impose over the circuit, and it really does bring in that fine margin for error, and it makes it feel that little bit more real.
No, 100%. It's first off an absolute pleasure to join you once again for this race. It's going to be a big challenge indeed.
It really will. Big challenge on the way. But race one of the weekend very shortly about to get underway for round 5 of Ferrari Challenge UK. So the field will leave the grid in a few moments' time. The safety car will lead the field away, and then the drivers will be working hard to get as much temperature into the tyres, the Pirelli P0 slick tyres, and try and get as much temperature into the brakes as well over the coming lap, ready to take to the circuit in anger for a 30-minute plus 1 lap race. This is the way in which they will line up. Gilbert Yates lines up on pole position. His son Bradley Yates lines up alongside. It will then be Sean Ran lining up in third. Brilliant qualifying. He is joined by Joseph Dean. Row 3 is Christopher Baton and William Bolster. We look towards row 4, and we've got Mike Dewhurst and Andrea Seminara. Row 5 of the grid, Darren Howell has got Ian Morris for company. Ian Morris, a very good opening stage of his qualifying session. And the 6th and final row of the grid, it's John Turner. He has Tony Dean alongside. As you may have guessed, we don't have Manuela Gosner joining us for this race. She should be joining us tomorrow. Speaking of Manu, she's just arrived outside the commentary box, so great to see Manuela Gosner up and about as well. So 2 green flag warming up laps, just due to the nature of the Brands Hatch circuit. As we say, it is a shorter lap, so we need to make sure that the drivers have ample opportunity to get the optimal temperatures, because whilst these Ferrari 296 Challenge cars are thoroughbred racing machinery through and through, naturally there is that setup process of get everything up to temperature, and then you can unleash one of the most potent race cars on the planet.
The last thing you want as well is cold tyres coming into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time at racing speed. It's a massive, it's a multi-storey drop effectively from the top of it down to the bottom, to the lowest point of the circuit, and then it's another 23-metre climb through the rest of it. So you need to make sure that the car is in good stead as possible, so then you're able to absolutely use everything that the Ferrari 296 Challenge has to offer.
These 296 Challenge cars, of course, new for Ferrari Challenge UK this season. They were introduced a season earlier elsewhere around the world in the various Corsa Cliente and Ferrari Challenge Championships, for which are on the global stage. The safety car will peel its way right in towards the pit lane, and then it's Gilbert Yates and Bradley Yates on the run towards turn one. Who's going to get the best start between the pair of them? Gilbert Yates backs the field up, ready for race one of the weekend. And the green flag is waved, so starters' orders. Everybody's happy that they are nose to tail, side by side. The red lights are on. When the red lights go out, we'll go racing for the first time this weekend. Bradley Yates hugging his father in towards the pit wall. Away they go. Gilbert Yates gets a really good start, hard on the brakes in towards turn one. Sean Rann looking good for what was potentially second place. He holds on to third for now, but Bradley Yates fights back up the hill, up towards Druids. Late on the brakes, Gilbert Yates tries to square the corner off, goes slightly deep on the brakes. Bradley Yates dives his way up through the inside. That will be the outside for Graham Hill Bend, but Gilbert Yates, for now, he's going to hold on to the lead. Bradley Yates following in his wheel track. Sean Rann, he's done everything he needs to. Joseph Dean pushing on, and Mike Dewhurst, what a start from him.
Really good start from Mike Dewhurst especially. I saw him get a bit late on the brakes going around the outside of Druids, but that allowed him the momentum to get back on the inside for Graham Hill, get himself up into fifth place, and more importantly, right onto the back of Joseph Dean in that battle for third in Trofeo Pirelli. Really good start as well from Sean Rann, just breaking clear of the rest of the Copper Shell field. He's got two cars in between himself and Christopher Baton, who's had a good start as well. Really good start from both Sean Rann and Mike Dewhurst there. So but it is Gilbert Yates and Bradley Yates very close to each other as they come to Druids on the start of this second lap.
Yeah, Dave at Alton Park, whilst chatting to Gilbert Yates, made a very, very valid point, which has rung ever more true in the following weeks, where Gilbert is starting to look over his shoulder that little bit more now, because he knows Bradley is really coming to terms with the 296 Challenge car, and he's starting to extract yet more and more pace, not only from the car, but from himself as well. And as the season wears on, the early championship leader, Bradley Yates, has fallen back behind Gilbert, but he's starting to turn the heat up once again. So over the start-finish line, Gilbert Yates, your leader, followed by Bradley Yates. It's then Sean Rann soaking up the pressure from Joseph Dean, before we get back then to Mike Dewhurst. Back from Mike Dewhurst, it's Christopher Baton, the Copper Shell Championship leader, William Bolster, Darren Howell, Andrea Seminara, Ian Morris, John Turner and Tony Dean. But is Sean Rann going to be the cork in the bottle? Joseph Dean runs wide. Is this going to present an opportunity to Mike Dewhurst? No, not on this occasion, but Sean Rann doing everything he needs to, not only to hold on to a place on the overall podium, but to hold on to the lead in Copper Shell.
There's a bit of a concertina effect there as Joseph Dean flashing the headlights as if to remind Sean Rann of his presence there immediately behind. Sean Rann going defensive meant that Joseph Dean was immediately in an inopportune position and had to go defensive himself to preserve his position right ahead of Mike Dewhurst. The two Yateses continue on at the front of the field. You mentioned them earlier, important to note as well, they each shared a fastest lap at Alton Park last time out, so both of them have a lot of pace out in the front, and they are already starting to pull away as that battle behind Sean Rann continues on.
You can see both Gilbert and Bradley Yates asking everything of the fabulous Pirelli P0s just as the car was bouncing over the exit curbing at Paddock Hill Bend, using as much curb on the inside of Graham Hill Bend, the leaders, to try and rotate the car on towards the Cooper Straight. Joseph Dean really starting to close in on Sean Rann once again, closing that gap. He's got the pressure of Mike Dewhurst. He wants to get through and past Sean Rann and get that car between him, but a bounce over the curb unsettles the car slightly. But once again, the Pirelli's called into action, grip the car to the road once again, and Joseph Dean, is he going to be afforded yet another opportunity? Bradley Yates, you've just spotted something.
Yep, he's already had 2 track commit offences and he's on his final warning, 3, and that starts to run some penalties. So Bradley Yates, already with just 3 minutes into this race, he's really attacking Gilbert Yates in front of him, but he's going to have to ease off just a bit. He cannot afford any more opportunities, or else that opens him up to all the cars behind. Sean Rann currently about a second a lap slower than the cars in front of him at the moment, by virtue of this staunch defensive effort that he's continuing on. He's making that car incredibly wide, and Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst and Christopher Baton maintaining a very close distance to them as well. They're just having to be patient, but Sean Rann, he's not looking like he's going to be making mistakes anytime soon.
No, Sean Rann drawing upon as much of the experience as he can in various pieces of GT machinery, more importantly the Ferrari 296 Challenge car. Mike Dewhurst biding his time there. Did you spot that? Just that little dab on the brakes, maybe just waiting for the correct opportunity.
He got a really good run out of the final corner and was getting closer to the rear of Joseph Dean's car. He's aware that there's still 25 minutes, and with the pair of Yateses just further up the road now, he's going to have to just wait effectively. Big little slide out of the Druids there by Christopher Baton. Very well controlled to get that back underneath him. Really good defensive though, but Sean Rand, dare I say, he's pulling away a little bit here to his credit.
Joseph Dean, I think, now keeping an eye on that rearview mirror that little bit more, just meaning that Mike Dewhurst is getting somewhat closer. Christopher Baton is going to start applying some pressure now. The last thing Sean Rand wants to do is to lose out to Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst, because the Copa Shell Championship leader, Christopher Baton, is right there with them. So he's got to keep that gap, keep those two cars between him, regardless of class. There's no reason that he needs to let the faster class go through and past, because they are racing for overall position. So Sean Rand pushing on, doing brilliant work, although it is allowing Gilbert Yates and Bradley Yates to run away. So it's going to be the fight for the second step, or the final step, pardon me, on the Trofeo Pirelli podium. As we look further down the order, fairly equidistantly spread for Copa Shell, but at the moment we've got to keep an eye on Sean Rand, because he's soaking up this pressure brilliantly well.
Keep an eye on Sean Rand. Keep an eye as well on William Bolster, who is slowly working his way towards the back of Christopher Baton. He got a good lap last time by, continuing to apply that pressure, because anything that can happen ahead of him will allow William Bolster to get himself involved into these fights as well. He's had a string of good results recently, a couple of podiums last time out at Alton Park in Copper Shell, so he's more than ready to try and get a further step off the podiums. Mike Dewhurst just has a little peek on the inside of Druids on Joseph Dean, forcing Dean to take a more defensive line, and that just allows Sean Rand a little bit more breathing space once again. Gilbert Yates out in front now, pulling away from Bradley Yates, who's having to be conscious of those track limit warnings. Gilbert Yates with the fastest lap now of a 46 points. 147, I believe that was. 167.
Gilbert Yates really pushing on now, isn't he? Continuing to drive away up the road, but is Bradley Yates slowly going to reel him back in? That was quicker on that occasion, but Sean Rand goes through and sets a very quick time indeed. So he's now looking to improve, or at least run away from the cars behind, which he's doing so with success at this stage. The ideal thing for Sean now is to just leave Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst fighting away. But there is Gilbert Yates, your race leader. Some fabulous new graphics for this weekend. Shows just how quick they are arriving into some of the corners, and how much commitment the drivers need to have. But that all puts pay to the trust they have in the 296 Challenge car.
It's an incredibly short run coming out of Graham Hill up towards 30s, and they're immediately accelerating up to about 185 kilometres an hour as they come past the start-finish line here, coming at about 235 kilometres an hour. Just an incredible amount of acceleration that these cars are able to do. And now we look a little bit further back, the overall battle for third. This is the leader of Copper Shell, Sean Rand, having to stay defensive against Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst behind, because both of them are holding station very close behind that wonderfully liveried black and red car of Sean Rand. Joseph Dean, he's had a really good lap last time by. His personal best of the race was half a second quicker than Sean Rand, continuing to apply pressure as and where he can. A little bit further back, another track limits warning for Darren Howell. He's on his final warning. Tony Dean in the 27 car, the Stratstone Colchester machine, is on his final warning as well. So all of the drivers looking to explore the limits of adhesion on the circuit, and then perhaps just a little bit more as well, just using every advantage that they possibly can to keep themselves in the fight.
There is Sean Rand, third overall, but first in Copa Shell. This is coming off the back of a win at Silverstone, a win at Alton Park, and now trying to do the same here at Brands Hatch. This is a real turning point for Sean Rand in his championship aspirations, and doing what he can to close down Christopher Baton. Even if he can't achieve that, come the end of the season, he will have made a fabulous statement on, this is where I belong, and when I'm here, I will win.
I distinctly remember back at Snetterton thinking that Christopher Baton was just going to completely run away with it, and right now Sean Rand is just doing a sterling job at the front of the Copper Shell field. He's got two Trofeo Pirelli drivers in between him, third overall in the field. He's got wonderful breathing space back to Christopher Baton, and this is a really good foundation, like he said, for him to push on and continue from here.
Yes, for Sean Rand, he's just got to keep this work up. Mike Dewhurst working closely with Ed Bridle, his driver coach. That's put him in a good position, managed to clear a number of cars on the opening lap of the race, the opening couple of corners, to put him right in the fight for a Trofeo Pirelli podium with Joseph Dean. Sean Brand working with Josh Speed this weekend from a GT background is also going fabulously well. As for Joseph Dean, pushing on, he'll be drawing upon what himself and Aston Miller have been talking about in the interim, just to try and get that 296 Challenge car pushed into the overall podium places. But again, like you say, Sean Brand, he just builds gaps in all of the right places. He doesn't leave himself vulnerable.
No, not at all. He's just at the right moment, especially sector 2. He seems to have the advantage on Joseph Dean. I'm not sure if that's a setup choice between the two cars, but he's just able to get a couple of tenths there. Joseph Dean is able to close the gap ever so slightly through the first sector, but then Sean Brand just seems to have, it's only a 2-corner sector. You've got Surtees, clearways, and then you're back onto the start-finish straight, and he just seems to have got that down to a very fine art in holding this position. We see on the screen the overall progress. Mike Dewhurst made his 2 positions on the first lap, a really good first lap, and he has found himself behind the cork in the bottle in a way, but if there is an opportunity for him to make the pass, I'm sure he's going to be trying and doing it. As this has all happened, this discussion, Gilbert Yates with the new fastest lap of the race, a cool 0.003 of a second quicker than his previous best.
Yeah, that's consistency, isn't it? It's not just consistency in terms of lap time, it's consistently quick in terms of lap time. Gilbert Yates doing typical Gilbert Yates things, and of course he doesn't have the worry of track limits looming large over his head, unlike his son Bradley Yates in second place, who has exceeded track limits twice. So too has Darren Howell. We've seen Tony Dean exceed track limits 3 times, and unfortunately he has been awarded a 5-second time penalty to be applied at the end of the race. But Gilbert Yates, whilst he may be losing time on one lap, he gains it all back on the next lap just by keeping that consistency, but doing so without transgressing the circuit limits. So Gilbert Yates looking to become the first ever consecutive 3-time champion in Ferrari Challenge UK, and he's going about it all the right ways. 2.2 seconds to the good over his son Bradley in second.
2.2 seconds to the good, last time by just under half a second quicker than Bradley Yates was Gilbert, so he is doing everything correct in just maintaining that gap, pulling away little by little. But we know Gilbert Yates, we know that he's going to be pushing on regardless. The battle for third is by far the closest on the circuit. We've got Sean Brand, Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst all still very close behind. William Boster's drifted off just a little bit behind Baton, but still in third place in the final spot of the rostrum for the Copper Shell podium. So he's still doing an absolutely fine job himself, but that battle for third is the one that's really eager at the moment. Gilbert Yates, by the way, now starting to come across lap traffic less than halfway into the race. Such is the pace that Gilbert's been going at.
Gilbert or has plenty of experience in negotiating lapped traffic, and to be fair, when we have seen it before, lap traffic has always been very well informed, and the racecraft has always been very well prepared in terms of, right, I can see you quicker, there's no interest in me trying to not jump out of the way. So they're doing brilliant things at the moment. Gilbert Yates still pushing on in the lead of the race, 2.6 seconds clear now. We'll get an update next time he goes over the start-finish line, goes through and breaks the beam, a flash of the lights. The lead gap now 2.9 seconds, so a further 0.3 of a second gained from Gilbert Yates on that occasion from Bradley Yates. Bradley may have just started to wind that pace back slightly, as he will have been informed about himself transgressing the circuit limits. However, washed wide, deeper on the brakes, and unfortunately that's yet more time lost for Bradley Yates. Somebody else that's been exceeding track limits, Andrea Seminara, he's up to 2 now as well. I
was just about to say, yeah, Andrea Seminara in the number 6, the HRO car, has got himself up to a second track limit warning, so a final warning, and anything above that will be a time penalty added on at the end of the race. Other drivers with final warnings, Bradley Yates, Darren Howell are on their final warning. Mike Dewhurst is just at the 1. He's at his first warning for the track limits transgressions at the moment. It's fascinating to see on that last lap. It was in the final few sectors that Bradley Yates was slower than Gilbert Yates, but as a result of washing wide through Druids on that last lap, Gilbert Yates able to extend his gap in front by another second. Here is Andrea Seminara on the screen right now. He's in 5th place at the moment in Copper Shell. He is, I believe, starting to close in on Darren Howell up ahead, another person who's also on their final warning, so both of them on even keel right now.
Yeah, the last thing that either of those two will want will be getting into a battle, much like Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst, the pair of them starting to squirm away on the exit of Druids as the track temperature continues to rise, and the drivers getting closer than ever. Mike Dewhurst breathing down the neck of Joseph Dean, following in the wheel tracks as they head through Surtees in towards McLaren and Clearways. Joseph Dean, he's not changed his lines as of yet. He's not necessarily taking defensive lines, so he's not too worried about a lunge from Mike Dewhurst, but that may start to wander into the back of his mind over the coming laps. Here comes Mike Dewhurst and Joseph Dean over the start-finish line, and Mike has a little look to the inside, but then wanders the car over to the outside once again to set it up for Paddock Hill Bend. But Mike Dewhurst, he knows what he needs to do. He's already a champion of one class. He's trying to make it. He's trying to become champion of Trofeo Pirelli as well. But to do that, he needs to get on that podium consistently, and that seems like a hurdle, which was that little bit harder than he first thought.
I mean, these are very good drivers at the top of Trofeo Pirelli. He's having to get past Joseph Dean, but to his credit, he is putting Joseph Dean under so much pressure to the point where Sean Rann has begun to pull away out in front. He's built the gap up to over a second now as Sean Rann, still continuing to lead Copichel by virtue of those two cars in between him and the Trofeo Pirelli class bridging the gap back to Christopher Baton. Baton, to his credit, has continued to sit on the back of these two battling in front, Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst. So Christopher Baton himself, if he's able to find a way past these two, then he can continue to push on and potentially put Sean Rann under a bit more pressure. We've only just crossed the halfway point of this race, and there's still so much that can potentially unfold over the next 15 minutes.
The thing is, if you are Christopher Baton, you're asking yourself the question, has Mike Dewhurst got a problem? Going slow is Mike Dewhurst, so he peels the car off to the right-hand side, allowing Christopher Baton through. And Mike Dewhurst, we know that Ed Bridle mentioned something was afoot in qualifying. Unfortunately, it seems to have appeared or re-reared its head once again in race number 1 of the weekend, so it could be a long night for that team.
It's incredibly unfortunate if that is the case, but he can take solace in the fact that there is clearly a lot of pace underneath that car in the number 78 machine. We're just keeping an eye out to see if he is come down into pit lane. Believe he has, so he'll be okay. He'll be good to go tomorrow. Out in front, Gilbert Yates continues to bridge the gap ahead of Bradley Yates. He's up to 4.5 seconds now. Last time by both of the Yateses, driving very similar sort of lap times, 46.7, as there is Mike Dewhurst back into the pit lane.
Yeah, himself and Ed Bridle staring at the screen just in front of the steering wheel, so presumably that's displaying a message for which they need to investigate. But as I was saying, for Chris Baton, what do? You're going to be asking yourself the question, is it going to be a position where you want to try and now get through and past and try and hunt down Sean Rann, or are you going to sit behind and just take the points and hopefully extend that championship lead?
I think it's going to be a point now where Christopher Baton is coming, he's continuing to push on, because he won't push on too much. I can't imagine he's going to want to put Joseph Dean under too much pressure, because anything that he's able to do, Joseph Dean now doesn't have to look behind him anymore. He can look forward to try and get ahead of Sean Rann, because whilst he's not going to gain any positions in the Trofeo Pirelli, he is going to gain positions overall. And any racing driver is always going to be keen on getting positions in a race. It's just part of their nature.
Yeah,
that's what they are.
That's the thing, isn't it? Especially when you know you're in two separate classes. You sort of get, there's nothing in it for me, but I want to be ahead.
Joseph Dean will be thinking, I should be ahead. Why am I not ahead?
Yes,
and
exactly.
This is the opportunity that he's got now to get ahead. And indeed, he is closing that gap. It was 1.5. It's down to 1.388. So just under a couple of tenths that he's gained on that last lap. And both of them now into the mid-47s as you've mentioned already, the track temperature continues to rise. The humidity is slightly lower, I believe, than it was at the start of this race, but up to 38.4 degrees now is the track temperature. So continuing on, and the driver's doing a great job in these conditions. But Sean Rann is going to have to be looking behind him. I have a look at the sector times to see what they're doing, and they are running very similar first sector times. Sean Rann has got his first track limit warning of the race. Joseph Dean hasn't got any. So Sean Rann 2 more, and that could be a problem. Joseph Dean still has 3 to go until he has an issue with that one. And as they come across the line, very similar lap times from both Sean Rann and Joseph Dean. Sean Rann has the fastest lap of the show with 46.794.
Dave, down in the pit lane.
Thank you. Just to give you an update on the Mike Dewhurst, it was an intermittent sensor electrical issue which has thrown the car into a warning mode, which meant he had to come back into the pits, have it reset, go back out again. So absolute blow for Mike Dewhurst. Nothing absolutely terminal, just an intermittent fault and a gremlin, which has caused him to have to come into the pit lane. That's as much info as I have. That comes from Ed Bridle, his driver coach.
I think the only consolation then for Mike Dewhurst at that point is going to be he was 4th in Trofeo Pirelli. He's come in, he's got the problem sorted, he's gone back out, and he is still 4th in Trofeo Pirelli. It's nowhere near as far up overall, but he will still score the points in Trofeo Pirelli.
Exactly, and that's the important bit, especially as he was looking good for 4th in the championship over Manuel Agosta, who unfortunately isn't with us for the first race of the weekend. Flash of the lights for Gilbert Yates as he's trying to work his way through and past Ian Morris on the run in towards turn 1. Now Mike Dewhurst following in the wheel tracks of Gilbert Yates. That could be a bit of a blessing in disguise now, because he can sit there and go, what is the race leader doing? I can take this into account for the rest of the race and for the first half of a lap of tomorrow.
It's a very important part of the lap for tomorrow as well, because this is for the GP circuit, this is the slower section of the course. The rest of the GP loop is very high to medium speed corners in comparison to the likes of Druids and Graham Hill Bend, and it is admittedly a different line through Surtees going on to the Grand Prix loop. However, you want to learn from the best. What better opportunity there is right now in following Gilbert Yates as he negotiates through the traffic past Ian Morris and around the rest of the course.
Chris Baton with a mistake on the run in towards paddock Graham Hill Bend. You could see just how close he was getting to Joseph Dean, but unfortunately a slight mistake. That's really going to drop him away now, and he's got a lot of work to do over the next 9.5 minutes, plus that all-important extra lap. We saw the final race at Alton Park decided on that extra lap in Go-Pachel. Sean Ram was 3rd starting that lap. He went over the line come the end of the race and took to the top step of the podium.
Screen focused at the moment on Bradley Yates, who will be hoping that Gilbert Yates up ahead is being held up, but he has already gone through the couple of cars up ahead. Bradley Yates will be next to negotiate past Ian Morris and Mike Dewhurst. Mike Dewhurst currently trying to find a way to unlap himself on Ian Morris. There'll be no blue flags for that one, but there is Bradley Yates coming through, who as well, just have a look down through the order. The message on screen says the car 27 has a time penalty in the 5-second track limits. That was Tony Dean. That was established earlier on in the race.
So Gilbert Yates extending that lead margin ever more, 3.8 seconds now. Mike Dewhurst is trying to run away as best as possible. Sean Ran has attracted the attention of the stewards. He's now exceeded track limits twice as well. So Joseph Dean, he's not in an awful position here, but for him, he's just got to stick with it. Bradley Yates desperately trying to carve his way through and past some traffic. Ian Morris politely pulls over to the right-hand side, allows him through. So Bradley Yates, the next target for him will be Mike Dewhurst, who's running very wide on the run through McLaren and Clearways, but I think that's just an indication of let's try a few new things whilst we've got the opportunity.
It's a test session, effectively.
Yeah.
See where the line is through parts of the course. It's not going to learn too much for tomorrow on the final corner, but all the same, finding where the limits of adhesion are can never hurt. As Gilbert Yates gets through on Andreas Seminara to get a lap up on him. It's incredible. I'm just noting the sector times as they come through. As they come through the traffic, Bradley Yates, he wasn't held up for too long behind Ian Morris, but he still lost half a second in that first sector alone to Gilbert out in front. That is also testament, because I don't believe Gilbert Yates was losing that much time as he came through the traffic. So it's testament to his ability to carve his way through the field. But you mentioned it earlier, Sean Ran with that second track limits warning. He's on his final. Joseph Dean hasn't had any track limit off-track excursions yet that have raised the notes of the stewards, so he's in a very good position. He's just a little bit off the pace. It's working itself out lap by lap. The gaps remained about 2.5 to 3 seconds between Sean Ran and Joseph Dean, and again it just affects the overall order, because Joseph Dean is 3.5 seconds ahead of Christopher Baton, so Sean Ran has got a sizable gap now back to the second place car in Coppershell, which he leads.
He does. It's that proverbial sort of piece of elastic, isn't it, where it's just ebbing and flowing as the race wears on. 6 3/4 minutes still to go, plus that extra lap. Mike Dewhurst struggling to work his way through and past Andrea Seminara, which in turn is just starting to hamper Bradley Yates somewhat, I think. Out of the final corner now, Mike Dewhurst in a straight line. He's not going to have the opportunity to get by. But the thing is, for Mike Dewhurst, Andrea Seminara doesn't have to let him by. As we say that, Mike Dewhurst dives up the inside, position made. I say position made, but that's just he's managed to unlap himself. So out of all of that, 2 cars have gone past Andrea Seminara. He stays exactly where he was.
Yep, stays exactly where he was, and now Bradley Yates goes on the inside of Mike Dewhurst. Mike Dewhurst will have been getting the blue flag to just alert him of the car lap up behind him, and lets him dutifully through. Sean Rann still comfortably in the lead of Copper Shell. He's pulling the gap ahead of Joseph Dean. It's up to 3.9 seconds now, and another 2.8 back to Christopher Baton. So I say that it is growing. It was, yeah, Joseph Dean had to negotiate some traffic on the previous lap, which is why that gap's extended further. Still setting very similar lap times at the moment to Christopher Baton. You see the graphics on the screen there just showing the amount of braking that he's having to do to get the car slowed down through Surtees, McLaren and Clearways. Just trailing the brake through, getting the car through comfortably, and he's continuing to extend that gap at the front of the Copper Shell.
5.5 minutes to go. Sean Rann, brilliant work in this race, and has massively impressed in terms of not only his class, but the overall runners as well. As you say, 3rd overall and still leading the way comfortably in Copper Shell. Christopher Baton, that small mistake has cost him dear. This could be the first race that he's finished as down in second in quite a while, taking out of the equation Alton Park. I think you'd be looking back almost to Le Castellet before we find the last time that he wasn't necessarily inside that top 3. Obviously Alton Park, he had the issue on the final lap. Has he been on the podium every single round? I think he has. So he's incredibly consistent. I think second is the only step he's not been on, or did he manage to get there at Silverstone? He did manage to get there at Silverstone, but Chris Baton, he's become very much familiar, what I'm trying to say there, with the top step of the podium.
Yep, 100%. He's also been very familiar with the fastest lap of the race, doing that in all but the Le Castellet rounds. Every single race so far this season on UK soil, Christopher Baton has held the fastest lap. Right now, Sean Rann holds that, a 46.794 in class, Christopher Baton with a 46.972, and with the track temperature having continued to remain incredibly high, I don't think there's too much of an opportunity for Christopher Baton to get that point off him.
No, and whilst the Pirelli P0s provide brilliant lifespan and performance throughout it, naturally there is that point where you have been racing flat out a very quick, capable 296 Challenge car, so there will be aspects of that where you just can't quite, for example, stay exactly on where you were on the start of the race, and Sean Rann he's trying to prove me wrong, it would seem, as he continues to lap fabulously quickly all the way around. Druids, long right-hander, a couple of different lines you can take. You can go in early, square the corner off, and then fire your way back out again. You can look for a later apex to try and get on the power slightly earlier. Or you can do what I tend to do, which is outbrake myself and turn myself miles past the apex.
You do what you're comfortable with at the end of the day. If that's your line, Jack. Go for it, by all means. Sean Rann's found his line, and clearly it's worked incredibly well for him up to this point. Another 0.3 of a second quicker than Christopher Baton in that battle for the class on the previous tour. So he is just able to keep up that consistency, able to keep up that pace that has done him so well so far through this race, as he comes across the line with just over 3 minutes to go. Last time by, he was closed in a little bit by Joseph Dean, but he's doing everything he can. He's still got a sizable gap back to the Stratstone Colchester car behind him.
So that gap will be something of a safety net. Mike Dewhurst sat following in the wheel track to Bradley Yates, and of course we saw Bradley get through and by and put a lap on Mike Dewhurst a few laps ago. But for Mike, again, he will have so many learnings he can take from these final few laps of the race. Just that's where he's positioning the car, that's where he's placing it, that's the curb he is or isn't using. And then he can feed all this back to Ed Bridle. There was, I think, just slightly deeper on the brakes there, Bradley Yates, which, yeah, I was of a similar opinion as to I think yourself, where it just didn't quite look as comfortable as I think it once was.
It was more a case of, I would have imagined that Bradley Yates would have been able to pull away a fair bit ahead of Mike Dewhurst, but on
track limits as well, he'll be worried about that.
Will be, very much so. Mike Dewhurst is currently the 3rd fastest car on the circuit. So he's utilised the opportunity to learn off of Gilbert and Bradley Yates as he's rejoined the race, and he's putting himself now at a very good rate of knots as he's going around the course. I'll just have another quick look through to see if there are any more track limits. Everyone seems to have been behaving as they've become aware of their final warnings. We haven't seen any more come through as of yet. Mike Dewhurst does have one, but it's not really that important at this point. He's there to continue pushing, to continue learning, and get himself set up in as good stead as possible for tomorrow.
There is your race leader, Gilbert Yates, with just shy of 1 minute 30 left on the clock. So he'll go over the start-finish line in a few moments' time and begin his penultimate lap of the race. Of course, we've got to add that extra lap on. These 30-minute races really seem to fly by, but when you've got the quality of racing, like in Ferrari Challenge UK and the other Ferrari challenges around the world, can you blame it for going that quick? I think we just enjoy it too much.
I mean, we've not exactly left any dead noise, have we?
No, not at all.
We've continued on. There's always been something going on that we've been able to talk about.
Just thinking, still with a minute to go, it won't be his penultimate lap of the race. This will be, he'll be able to complete this and then go on to the penultimate lap of the race, and then still have that further extra lap to add on come the end of the race. But Gilbert Yates will just be getting that car home now. 8.5 second lead over Bradley Yates. It seems like Mike Dewhurst is just trying to hustle him on now, going, keep an eye on me for tomorrow. I'm coming back, and I'm coming back with vengeance.
Yeah, no, 100%. The setup issue in qualifying that was alluded to on the grid earlier, if this is that problem fixed that brought him into the pit lane and everything's all good and they've got the car into the window that they need it to be, this is evidence, if it was needed, that Mike Dewhurst has a lot of pace underneath him and is able to take the fight to those that are at the front of Trofeo Pirelli. We were talking about it earlier, Mike Dewhurst making that extra step to get himself right towards the front. This is a bit of a potential preview, perhaps, of the future.
Absolutely. There is Gilbert Yates heading through Graham Hill Bend now. He is on his penultimate lap of the race, so next time by he'll be heading on to his final lap. Maybe a bit of traffic to negotiate, but there's no pressure. 9.5 seconds back is his son Bradley Yates, but he put the car in pole position. He currently has the fastest lap, and all being well, that will be another top step of the podium for Gilbert Yates, and he just continues to impress as the season wears on. Hopefully we can welcome Gilbert back for many more seasons to come. Go on.
Paul Ricard seems like a very distant memory for him now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that was a weekend to forget, and I think it has been forgotten for Gilbert Yates. Through Druids for the final time. There is a couple of cars he'll need to work his way through and by, one of which is William Bolster, the next car he will meet before heading on to the Cooper Straight. Over the start-finish line goes Andrea Seminara and Ian Morris. Those two have been fighting away. There's only a second between the pair of them. But for the moment, Andrea Seminara seems to have a healthy enough margin to not worry. Gilbert Yates through McLaren, on towards Clearways for the final time, and on towards the Brabham Straight, and it will be Gilbert Yates once again in Ferrari Challenge UK. Round 5, race 1 of the weekend, goes the way of Gilbert Yates. Yet another win in Ferrari Challenge UK. The tally continues to grow. So too does the championship lead. We've already seen William Bolster over the start-finish line to round out the Coppa Shell podium. Bradley Yates over the start-finish line now to finish second overall and second in Trofeo Pirelli. But Sean Rann, not only will he take to the overall podium, he will once again take to the top step of the Coppa Shell podium. Sean Rann, brilliant race from start to finish, defended very, very well indeed. He comes over the start-finish line, sees the checkered flag, and that is going to be one very happy Sean down there in the pit lane. So Gilbert Yates, your race winner, and Trofeo Pirelli winner. Bradley Yates, second overall, second in Trofeo Pirelli. Sean Rann, third overall, but wins Coppa Shell. Joseph Dean rounds out your Trofeo Pirelli podium in fourth place. It's then Christopher Baton, finished fifth overall and second in Trofeo Pirelli, in Coppa Shell, pardon me, and William Bolster rounds out your Coppa Shell podium in sixth. We can confirm some provisional results for you in a few moments' time. And of course, we get the pleasure of hearing from Dave down there in the pit lane once again, as he will be able to grab some first words, no doubt, from Gilbert Yates and Sean Rann. But Sean Rann, what an impressive race from him.
Outstanding, absolutely outstanding drive from Sean Rann. Controlled it from the start, controlled it all the way through, and then was comfortably pulling away from Trofeo Pirelli runners behind him, comfortably pulling away from the current championship leader in the form of Christopher Baton. A real statement drive from Sean Rann. This man right here, Gilbert Yates, we almost take it for granted, the level of driving that he's able to produce at the front of Trofeo Pirelli, so we expect that race on race from him. But Sean Rann just a really, really good drive at the front of the Copper Shell. Really good performance from him.
Yeah, I really hope that we get to see a lot more of Gilbert Yates and Bradley Yates, of course, in years to come. But more importantly, I'm hoping Gilbert Yates has confirmed his attendance at Finale Mondiale come the end of this season. Of course, it's being hosted at Barcelona, so the Barcelona Catalunya come the end of this season. And let's see what Gilbert Yates can do if he is in attendance. That would be brilliant to see if we can get Gilbert Yates and Bradley Yates, as many Ferrari Challenge UK drivers, over to Spain for the end of the season. Dave, you're down there in the pit lane.
Thank you very much, Jack. And Jack, I'm just going to try and steam in and get a word from Gilbert Yates. Literally, he's just out of the car, hasn't even had time to put his baseball cap on. Another supremely dominant performance, Gilbert Yates. You're up for an interview with Fred Vasseur, I think, for Formula One. He's just extraordinary. You are doing so well, friend.
Yeah, it's good job. It was a good race today. Bradley gave me such a hard time in the first few laps. I actually thought he was passed on the first 2, 3, 4 corners.
He was close.
I think we hit a few times. He was just not giving into any space, so I thought he's going to go through.
But then once you've got yourself into the zone, there is no stopping you. I think it was 9-ish seconds.
Yeah, I think he had trouble with his tyres, so we started to manage tyres. I seen him on the gravel as well. He was pushing so hard to stay with me, and we started to just change the braking technique and just save the tyres for the end. We knew it was going to be a long race, like 30 laps.
What was really nice to see is, as soon as you jumped out of the car, you went and thanked one of your engineers, because there is a team behind it, isn't there?
That's the whole team behind it. Tom's made me the driver I am today. Jason's awesome with the car. It's the whole team behind it, the mechanics and everyone, yeah.
Well done. We'll be seeing you on the podium again. Let's see if we can find Sean Rann. Here is Sean Rann sporting a fairly fashionable look, if ever there was one. Many congratulations, Sean. A dominant performance, if I may say.
I think so.
Yes, I think so. And I mean, how much confidence did you have going into the race?
Beginning the race, 100%, and middle of the race, still 100%. End of the race, a little bit, very exhausted, and I just checking when race will be finished. But it was beautiful.
Well done to you.
No pressure. Even I started in the second grid, it was no pressure from me from back or front. It was good, very relaxed.
Oh, well done to you, Sean, and we'll be seeing you on the podium. So there we have it. First emotions from our two race-winning drivers, Jack and Jack.
Thank you, Dave. Great to hear, as you say, from our two race-winning drivers. We will be able to see their podium presentations in a few moments' time, but let's have a look back to see how that race unfolded. Round 5 of the Ferrari Challenge UK season. So as the lights went out, it was Gilbert Yates on the run in towards turn 1 that was being hustled by his son Bradley in towards Paddock Hill Bend, right the way up towards Druid, still side by side. In the background, however, Mike Dewhurst was hard at work, ran slightly wide, however, that gave him ample opportunity to fire the car down the hill and make up 2 places in the space, the same amount of corners. But Gilbert Yates still pulling away from Bradley Yates, finally managed to get rid of the overlap, and from this point it was all eyes forward. Forget about that rear view mirror, and Gilbert Yates was running away throughout the remainder of that race. Going on in the background, Sean Rann and Joseph Dean, they were getting rather close together, and so too was Mike Dewhurst. He was pushing on, doing everything he could to try and unsettle the likes of Joseph Dean. But in the midpoint of the race, it was the Gilbert Yates show. Continued to run away, continued to extend that margin, and Bradley Yates had the track limits penalties looming large over his head. Joseph Dean still sat in the wheel tracks of Sean Rann. Mike Dewhurst was hard at work. Eventually that would all come to a head, unfortunately, and Mike would have to drop a couple of laps down as Christopher Baton managed to pick his way through. He started to apply that pressure onto Joseph Dean, so Joseph had a very busy race. Mike Dewhurst temporarily into the pit lane, a quick chat with Ed Bridle, confirmed they can fix the issue, and out went the car once again. Sean Rann still working away, now extending the margin from Joseph Dean, but it was all the way for Gilbert Yates through the traffic. And the lap time continued to fall. There was the mistake from Christopher Baton earlier on, just started to wash slightly wide, unfortunately nibbled at the grass, and all of that hard work came undone. He had to chase down Joseph Dean once again, all whilst picking his way through traffic. Mike Dewhurst still following in the wheel tracks, having returned to the circuit of Bradley Yates. Those two having a bit of a battle towards the end of the race, but Mike, positive signs for tomorrow. But come the end of the race, once again, it was Gilbert Yates that saw the checkered flag first, over the start-finish line to take yet another win in Ferrari Challenge UK. Sean Rann followed suit, 3rd overall, but took another win in Copper Shell. Brilliant race for all involved. Plenty to look forward to tomorrow.
Okay, so we are ready for the podium then. And first up, it is going to be Trofeo Pirelli podium. Please give it up for taking P3. Here comes Joe Dean. Well done, Joe. Taking P2, once again, Bradley Yates. And on the top step of the podium for the 457th time, it's Gilbert Yates. And of course, we have a dealer representative as well from Charles Hurst to support us on our podium celebrations. Wherever Charles Hurst is, do hurry up, Noel. Thank you. And delighted to welcome Ferrari factory driver Phil Hansen here, who's going to make the trophy presentations. Top geezer is Phil, making the P3 trophy presentation to Joe Dean. Here comes the P2 trophy to Bradley Yates. And on the top step of the podium, once again, Gilbert Yates. And of course, the Copa Dealer trophy to be awarded to Charles Hurst. But as if that were not enough, we have the Pirelli trophy for our race winner as well, and that is Gilbert Yates. Well done, Phil. We want Phil back for the photos. No. Phil Hansen back in the photos here. Handsome chap that he is, you see. And take note of our photographer here, Lee. He'll tell you exactly what he wants. Demanding individual that he is. And once the photographs are taken, then you will be released to celebrate as you would like. Christmas. That's a good one today. Our Trofeo Pirelli podium then. So the 3, 2, 1 on our podium then. Joseph Dean taking P3. Taking P2, Bradley Yates. And then taking P1, whose sight has been affected a little bit, but now by the champagne. Well done to Gilbert Yates. We have our top podium operatives here. Setting up for the Copa Shell podium now. We could just do with a mop there, really, couldn't we? Right, Copa Shell podium time. Right, taking P3. Give it up for William Bolster. Here comes William. Taking P2, Chris Baton. And then on the top step of the podium, here comes Sean Rand. And of course, the dealer going to be represented. HRO in here. Well done. Behind every top driver, there's a top dealer. And once again, the trophy is going to be presented by our top Ferrari factory driver here, Phil Hansen, who'll be dishing out the silverware here for our Copa Shell drivers. P3 for William Bolster. It's P2 for Chris Baton. And then on the top step of the podium, here is Sean Rand. And of course, the Copa Dealer trophy to be presented to HRO in. And drivers and presenter, if you will, Phil. All smiles. Listen to Lee. He is our... Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Come on, you're not getting away with it that easily. HRO in staying on board for the photo here. See, you can never win, can you? And there, what a great shot that is of Sean Rand, Chris Baton and William Bolster. William is almost jumping the start with the champagne, everybody. He could get a time penalty for that. Well done to all our Copa Shell drivers. Fantastic stuff, and thank you to all of you for helping us with the podium there. Back to you, Jack and Jack.
Thank you very much, Dave. Great to hear from our winners, of course, earlier on, and then great to see the top three in both Trofeo Pirelli and Copa Shell come the end of race number 1 of the weekend. We get to do it all again tomorrow, of course. We go on to the Grand Prix circuit tomorrow, which introduces a new challenge, new corners, maybe new parts of the circuit which drivers haven't really adventured to. So it really is a completely different day. These are the provisional results. Gilbert Yates took the win, as we know. Bradley Yates in second place. Rounding out your Trofeo Pirelli podium, it was Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst. After all of that, only finished 4 laps down, but carries so much momentum into tomorrow now with everything he learnt off the back of completing that race. Sean Ran on the top step of the podium once again, over 7.5 seconds clear of the Copa Shell Championship leader. Christopher Baton, William Bolster rounded out your Copa Shell podium ahead of Darren Howell, Andrea Seminara, Ian Morris, John Turner, Tony Dean. This is what the championship looks like. So Gilbert Yates extends his championship lead in Trofeo Pirelli ahead of his son Bradley Yates. Joseph Dean in third. Mike Dewhurst has now cleared Manuel Agostino by 2 points for fourth. Let's have a look at the Copa Shell Championship. Christopher Baton's lead has been cut into slightly by Sean Ran. Still a commanding lead for Christopher Baton. Ahead of Sean Ran, William Bolster, Andrea Seminara, Darren Howell, Ian Morris, Hussein Sert, who unfortunately doesn't join us this weekend, and John Turner, 8th in the Copa Shell Championship. But what a brilliant opening day for Ferrari Challenge UK here at Brands Hatch. Plenty to look forward to tomorrow now, Jack.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I'm very eager to see as well how Manuel Agostino gets on the GP loop. Very eager to see how everyone else gets along on the GP loop. Completely different challenge to what we've had today. There's going to be, I reckon there's going to be a lot to look forward to ahead of tomorrow.
Plenty to look forward to. Please do join us again tomorrow for, once again, another qualifying session and another 30-minute +1 lap race here at Brands Hatch. But tomorrow, it's on the GP loop. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.